the detention facility on Kepler 4 for to be hummed with an eerie silence. Rhea stood outside cell block 7, her boots echoing against the metallic floors as she approached the reinforced observation window. Inside, 3 Zaltharian prisoners huddled in the corner, their violet skin glistening under the harsh fluorescent lights. Their elongated limbs were wrapped protectively around their bodies, and their 6 eyes tracked her every movement with unmistakable terror. "They still won't eat?" Albert asked, joining her at the window. His medical uniform was crisp, his expression concerned as he reviewed the data on his tablet. Rhea shook her head, her auburn hair catching the light. "It's been 4 days. Dr. Chen says if they don't consume something soon, their metabolic systems will start shutting down. The war had ended 3 months ago. The Zaltharian Empire had surrendered after humanity's unexpected victory in the Battle of the Orion Nebula. These prisoners were among the last remaining enemy combatants, soldiers who had been captured during the final skirmishes. The Interstellar Convention required humane treatment of all prisoners of war, but the Zaltharians didn't seem to understand that concept. Albert studied the creatures through the glass. During the war, Zaltharian propaganda had painted humans as savage beasts who consumed their enemies. The irony wasn't lost on him. The Zaltharians themselves were known for their brutal treatment of captives. But these soldiers, young and terrified, clearly believed every word of their empire's lies. "I'll go in," Rhea said quietly. "Maybe if I show them the food is safe. Are you sure?" Albert's hazel eyes showed concern. "Last time someone entered, they nearly hurt themselves trying to get away." Rhea smiled sadly. "That's exactly why I need to try. They're dying of fear, Albert. Fear of us." She picked up a tray from the nutrition station, a carefully prepared meal designed to match Zaltharian dietary requirements. The research team had worked tirelessly to replicate their home-world cuisine: bioluminescent fungi, protein clusters resembling what they called star seeds, and a pale blue liquid that approximated their ceremonial drink. "Jeltara," the airlock hissed as Rhea entered the cell. Immediately, the 3 Zaltharians pressed themselves against the far wall, their breathing rapid and shallow. The largest one, who wore the markings of a junior officer, made a sound like breaking glass, their species' expression of distress. "Hey," Rhea said softly, keeping her movements slow and deliberate. "It's okay. I'm not going to hurt you." She knew they couldn't understand English without their translators, which had been removed for security reasons. But tone mattered. Intent mattered. She sat down on the floor, cross-legged, making herself smaller, less threatening. The tray rested in front of her. Albert watched from the observation deck, his heart pounding. He'd served as a combat medic during the war, had seen things that still haunted his dreams. But this watching Rhea try to bridge the gap between species through simple compassion, this was somehow more intense than any battle. Rhea picked up one of the protein clusters and took a small bite. The taste was strange, almost metallic, but she smiled and made an exaggerated show of enjoying it. The Zaltharians watched, their multiple eyes blinking in asynchronous patterns that Albert had. Learned indicated confusion. She set the cluster down and slowly pushed the tray toward them. "See, not poisoned. Not dangerous. Just food." The junior officer made a sound, a series of clicks and whistles. One of the younger soldiers responded, their voice trembling. They were communicating, debating. Minutes passed. Rhea remained perfectly still, her presence calm and unthreatening. She began to hum an old lullaby her grandmother had taught her, something about stars and safe harbors. The melody filled the cell, and gradually, incredibly, the Zaltharian's breathing began to slow. The smallest of the three, barely more than an adolescent by their species standards, extended a tentative limb toward the tray. Their companions made urgent sounds, trying to pull them back, but the young one was either braver or more desperate than the others. Rhea held her breath as those delicate, seven-fingered hands reached for the jar. The young Zaltharian brought it to their mouth. They had three, arranged in a triangular pattern on their face, and drank. Nothing happened. No poison, no pain. Just nourishment. The junior officer's posture changed subtly. Albert, who had studied Zaltharian body language extensively, recognized it as surprise mixed with shame. They had been so certain of humanity's cruelty, so convinced of their imminent torture and death. Rhea smiled and stood slowly, backing toward the airlock. "Take it easy," she whispered, though they couldn't understand the words. "You're safe here." As the airlock sealed behind her, she let out a long breath. Albert was immediately at her side, steadying her as her adrenaline crashed. "That was incredibly dangerous," he said, but his voice was warm with admiration. "It was necessary," Rhea replied, watching through the observation window as the three prisoners cautiously approached the food. "They've been taught to see us as monsters. Someone had to show them differently." Over the following days, Rhea and Albert established a routine. They would enter the cell together, always with food, always with patience. They brought games from Earth, simple puzzles that required no language. They showed images of human families, children playing, people laughing. Slowly, painfully slowly, the Zaltharians began to understand. The junior officer, who they learned was named Kezithar, was the first to attempt communication through gestures. They pointed to the food, then to their chest, then made a motion that Albert recognized as their species. Expression of gratitude. 3 weeks after Rhea's first solo entry, a Zaltharian translator arrived, a civilian diplomat who had survived the war. Through them, Kezithar finally spoke to their human captors. "We were told you would consume us," Kezithar said, their voice translator rendering the words in flat, emotionless English that couldn't capture their underlying shame. "Our commanders said humans were beasts who fed on sentient flesh. When you hand-fed us, we thought you were preparing us, making us trust you before the end." Rhea's eyes filled with tears. "We just wanted you to eat, to survive. The war is over, Kezithar. We're not enemies anymore." The Zaltharian made a gesture, touching their three mouths with their fingertips, a sign of deep respect. "You showed us kindness when you had every reason for vengeance. You are not beasts, perhaps. Perhaps we were the ones who needed to learn what it means to be civilized." Albert placed a hand on Rhea's shoulder as they watched Kezithar return to their companions. The young Zaltharian, who had first dared to eat, was making sounds that the translator identified as laughter. "One small act of compassion," Albert murmured. "That's all it took to break through decades of propaganda." Rhea nodded, a small smile on her face. "Take it easy," they told us in training. "Don't push too hard. Don't expect miracles." But sometimes, Albert, sometimes miracles happen when you simply choose kindness over fear. Outside the cell, the stars of Kepler-4 were to be gleamed through the facility's windows, the same stars that shone on Earth, on Zolfa, on countless worlds throughout the galaxy. Different species, different worlds, but all living under the same vast universe. And in that moment, peace felt possible.